Nintendo has just launched Switch Online, its first ever paid online gaming service. Or is it? In fact, Nintendo actually got into the paid online business back in 1999, and it all revolved around a little-known, Japan-only game platform called the 64DD. That's this right here. It's a magnetic disk drive for the Nintendo 64. It has some cool games, and hardly anyone bought it. Hello, and welcome to Complete Inbox. I'm Kotaku's features editor, Chris Kohler, and today we're doing something very special. Instead of just looking at a single video game, we are looking at a piece of game hardware as well as its entire library. But we'll get to that later. First, let's check out the machine itself, the Nintendo 64DD. Back in the mid-90s, Nintendo didn't want to use CD-ROMs like its competitors Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation.
It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut.
But it knew developers wanted more space. So in tandem with the N64, it developed the 64DD, which used these magnetic storage disks that could hold 64 megabytes of data. That's only 1/10 of a CD-ROM, but it's bigger than a cartridge. What's more, all that space would be writeable. That meant players could create custom art, in-game worlds, or original characters, do not steal, and save them all to the discs, enabling interesting creative play. Nintendo was hyping up the possibilities of 64DD before it even released the N64. Many N64 games were originally going to be on the 64DD. Donkey Kong 64, Pokemon Snap, even Zelda Ocarina of Time. But the 64DD kept getting delayed, and one by one, those games moved over to standard cartridge format. When it was finally released at the end of 1999 in Japan, the 64DD was the centerpiece of a paid online service started by Nintendo called Randnet. Here's a pamphlet passed out in Japanese gaming stores showing how it worked. You'd pay Nintendo 2,500 yen a month, or about $25. In return, you could browse the internet, use email, and play games online. Randnet also had a members-only section where you created custom avatars and communicated with other users. But the most important thing is this: they'd actually send you the 64DD system and the first 7 games as they were finished for no extra charge. Out of all the games released on the 64DD, the killer app was Mario Artist, the sequel to Mario Paint for the Super Nintendo. It actually shipped in 4 separate parts. Paint Studio came with a mouse and let you create 2D art. Polygon Studio let you create 3D art. Talent Studio was sort of the predecessor to later Nintendo character creation games like Mii's or Tomodachi Life. You could create characters by capturing pictures of your face using the included capture card or even a Game Boy camera. Then you could add them to a body and put them into dramatic scenes that you would write and direct. And finally, Communication Kit let you go online and share your creations. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Mario Artist was that it was secretly the origin of another popular Nintendo game series. After you created a 3D masterpiece in Polygon Studio, you could drop it into a game called Sound Bomber. What was Sound Bomber? Check it out. That's right, it's WarioWare. After Mario Artist came out, they added Wario characters and a couple hundred more of these micro games and turned Sound Bomber into its own series. Other 64DD games also emphasize being able to create and save massive worlds. There was SimCity 64, an expansion disc for the racing game F-Zero X that let you design your own tracks, and an original game called Doshin the Giant. You play this big yellow deity and help these tiny islanders by stomping down the terrain to make lakes or pulling it up to make mountains. The game saves the entire state of your world, which was a big deal in 1999. Now, since this is Complete Inbox, let's take a second and admire the wonderful packaging for Doshin the Giant. So there's this really cool paper sleeve. Here's the 64DD case. Here is the game's manual. We have a little promotional flyer for the soundtrack CD to the game, a reference card for the control scheme that you can have sitting there, and then here's the 64DD disc. And Nintendo even gave you 2 different labels for the end of the disc, and you could pick which one you put on. Now, there were only 2 more 64DD discs ever released, and the only way to buy both of them was to order them via online shopping through the Randnet service. There was the expansion pack to Doshin the Giant, and Japan Pro Golf Tour, the only 64DD game that offered online competitive play. Today, these are both extremely rare, as is the official Nintendo 64 keyboard, which you would also order through the Randnet service. Very helpful if the N64 was your only way of writing an email. Nintendo sent lots of other goodies to Randnet subscribers via the postal service. Regular newsletters went out informing them of online events and upcoming games, and they even sent Christmas cards. The 64DD and the paid Randnet service did not last long. Only about 15,000 customers signed up, and Nintendo shut it all down in February 2001 after just 15 months. Many 64DD games were canceled, including a disc version of Super Mario 64. While other 64DD projects like Resident Evil 0 or Mother 3 moved to other platforms entirely. The 64DD was going to be a big part of Nintendo's plans for the future. Instead, it ended up as a small curiosity, the only Nintendo platform where the hardware and all of its games stayed in Japan. It's highly sought after by collectors around the world, and now you've seen it complete in box.